The BBC is imploding this week.
Some breaking news to bring you about the BBC.
The British public broadcaster has been rocked at the highest levels of management.
Both the Director General and the news CEO are to resign.
It's the channel that's supposed to be the premier source of journalism and information for the UK, but it's proven itself anything but unbiased.
The so-called impartial and accurate public service broadcaster is nothing but.
We're going to break it all down right now on 10 Minutes of Truth.
The single most damaging thing is this question about the editing of the Trump speech.
Ironically, this happened just hours after we recorded an episode about two brutally dishonest incidents on the British TV network. Here's the episode to explain what happened with this British broadcasting bombshell.
The fight for truth is on.
Across the pond, as they say, the BBC is taking a lot of heat for a couple of different situations. First one I'm going to talk about is an anchor who earlier in the year, it was some time ago that she made the comments, but the BBC has now, I guess, upheld the complaints against her for what she said on the air.
Means.
And essentially, first, let me just play what she said that started this whole thing, and then we'll talk about it, Bob.
Okay.
London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine has released research which says that nearly 600 heat-related deaths are expected in the UK. Malcolm Mystery, who was involved in the research, says that the aged, pregnant people, women, and those with pre-existing health conditions need to take precautions.
Okay, that's what she said, Bob. She made the mistake of referring to a pregnant person as a woman.
Well, this is super interesting because in the prompter. So for people who maybe don't know, TV stories are written by a producer and then it's entered into the teleprompter and the anchor just reads it. This anchor did not write this. So the anchor is reading this and she comes to the point where it says pregnant people and you can even see her face. She got annoyed. She said the pregnant people, women, like she got irritated and her mind is like, and this is live on TV. You could see it's kind of in her mind. What the F are we saying pregnant people for? It's called women. But unfortunately, in the unbelievably woke UK, you can actually get in trouble for stuff like this.
So the BBC had to write a story about this themselves, and I want to quote a little bit of the BBC's own article about the fallout on this.
They had to explain what happened, I guess.
Yeah, they explained what happened, and they basically made their rulings. So I don't know how the BBC deals with their anchors, but the headline of the BBC story that they wrote about this is just last week. Martine Croxall, that's her name, broke rules over pregnant people facial expression, BBC says. So the BBC is quoting themselves here. They're saying that she broke rules and it had to do with her facial expression.
They monitor facial expressions at the BBC?
Yeah, and they're saying that they upheld 20 impartiality complaints. I don't know what they mean by upheld them. I guess they said that, you were wrong to do what you did. So they're talking about, number one, that she added the word women when describing pregnant people, and then she grimaced and made that little facial expression, which is very funny. So the BBC tries to hold themselves to this standard of we are the truth. We're the only source of truth that you can have in the UK.
I've got him on the line.
The more you try to drown out reality, the harder we'll work to verify the facts.
In fact, this is part of a promo that the BBC runs about themselves, where they basically beg the viewer to trust them.
We'll be watching. We'll be ready. Because it's the pursuit of truth that gives us our calling. The fight for truth is on.
It's absolutely ridiculous because the BBC gets caught lying all the time.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And we're going to give you another example here in a minute. But whatever the hell upheld, what does it say? It says that they upheld 20 impartiality complaints over the way presenter Martine Croxall
20 people complained, maybe. 20 people complained. and they filed complaints. I think in the UK you can like file a formal complaint, I believe, with like
against a journalist that you think is not doing the right thing.
Yes, I do.
But in
think
this
that.
case, no, I'm sorry. Okay, one of the first rules that you learn when you're learning to write broadcast news is that you should not use multiple words when one word will do the trick. So in the English language, and in fact every language that I know of on the planet, they came up with a way to describe a human being who has the natural ability to grow a child inside of their body. That's a lot of words, right? That's a lot of words. So what we do in the English language and in broadcast journalism is we try to shorten that into as fewer words. So for that whole phrase that I just gave you, we actually came up with a word, and that word is woman.
What they are saying, and what the woke mental cases in the United States and in England are saying, is that there are people who have the ability to grow a child inside their body, but they are men, and they have declared that they are men. So now they are men. Once you declare something, then you are the thing you have declared. So if you declare that you are not a woman and you are a man, but you can get pregnant, which, let's face it, you're a woman. You're just a woman who has mental issues. And so that's where pregnant people comes from, because saying women would exclude those men who can also get pregnant. That's the line of reasoning, even though there is no reasoning.
So let's move on to the next example. Still from the BBC. This is the other thing that they are getting a lot of grief about right now. And this is just a complete fabrication that they did in the editing process with a speech from Donald Trump all the way back in 2020.
Yeah.
So here's what they're accused of doing. They're accused of taking one part of a very long speech that Donald Trump gave on January 6th, and then they basically fast forwarded the tape 54 minutes, I think, later, and then they took two sentences and they basically put them together in the editing process. It is very egregious, and the BBC is really taking some heat for this.
It's the biggest story in town. It turns out American President Donald Trump was onto something.
Where are you from?
BBC.
Okay. Here's another beauty.
It's a good line. Impartial, free and fair.
Yeah, sure.
Well, that criticism of the BBC and John Sopel, who was talking to there, apparently was well-founded, because the so-called impartial and accurate public service broadcaster is nothing but. Because tonight the BBC is facing serious questions over its credibility after the Daily Telegraph exposed a Panorama segment that heavily doctored a speech by the American president in 2021, hours before the infamous January the 6th Capitol riot. As you're about to hear, the corporation spliced together two quotes 1 hour apart to make it seem like he encouraged an insurrection.
The BBC claims to be the pinnacle of impartial reporting, but what if there was an internal dossier that revealed that wasn't the case? The Telegraph has seen a letter that reveals one of the BBC's own independent advisors repeatedly warned that the broadcaster had serious and systemic problems. A week before the US election, BBC Panorama released a documentary called Trump: A Second Chance, and in it they played the following clip.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell.
But Trump didn't, in fact, say this at all. The BBC spliced together two clips that took place 54 minutes apart. So let's go through it again.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you.
Now, see there, between Capitol and, that's a cut. Here's what Trump actually said.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
It's different.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. And now we see that on top of the over-exaggeration of what actually happened that day, we have so-called legitimate newscasters like the BBC just fictionalizing what Trump said. Like, what would be the reason to do that?
Well, Bob, this is a show called Panorama, and this is basically the 60 Minutes. This is like the highest level of journalistic integrity that you can have in the BBC's world and on the BBC channels. So this isn't just like some overnight newscast where some editor that doesn't know what they're doing and is not paid very much money just kind of took it upon themselves to splice a couple of sound bites together. No, this is the major newscast of the BBC.
So this was done for a reason. But you know what it wasn't? It was not an insurrection. That's clear to everyone with a brain. There was no insurrection on January 6th.
And this is just a great example, this editing, the selective editing of this clip, great example of what the media can do to deceive you.
Yeah.
That's why we're here, so that we can sort it all out for you.
They feel like
you're
that you're not smart enough to really figure out how bad Trump is. So because we are much smarter than you in the media, we cannot trust you to get the sort of, to sort of understand what's happening the way we want you to. So if we have to literally splice together two unrelated pieces of audio to make you realize that Trump is bad like we think, then we're going to do that because deep down, they think you are stupid.
Well, that's it for this episode of Barrett and Baxa. Like, subscribe, and do all that other stuff podcasts want you to do.